Yo, yo, yo. Laker Nation, stop everything. I don't care what you're doing right now. Close the other tabs. Put the food down. Sit down and listen to me very carefully, because what happened this morning in the tunnel at Paycom Center in Oklahoma City was one of the most fired up, most personal, most emotionally raw things I have seen from an NBA player on the morning of a playoff game in a very, very long time. DeAndre Ayton, yes, DeAndre Ayton went off. And I mean that in the best possible way, because this man came out of that tunnel today looking like someone had been poking him for weeks, and he finally decided enough was enough. And after what Stephen A. Smith said on First Take this morning, and after what the entire media has been putting on DA's shoulders, I completely understand why. Let me break this down for you from the beginning. So here's what you need to know, Stephen A. Smith, right there on national television this morning, pointed at DeAndre Ayton specifically as the fatal weakness of the Lakers' playoff run. Not the depth, not the lack of Luka, DeAndre Ayton. Stephen A. said, direct quote, DeAndre Ayton is not Chet Holmgren's problem. Chet is going to eat him alive. And if the Thunder want to end this series in 4 games, all they need to do is run everything through the paint and embarrass Ayton every single possession. That's what he said on national television the morning of Game 1, and when the ESPN cameras caught up to DA in the tunnel doing his warm-up, doing shoulder rolls, getting mentally locked in. You could see it on his face before he even said a single word. This man was ready. Hey, what's up everyone? Real quick before we get into everything, that like button is literally what determines if this reaches hundreds or thousands of fans. Takes 1 second but makes a huge impact on the channel's growth. Just smash that like button right now. It's the easiest thing you can do, but honestly, the biggest way to support this content. Every single like pushes this further, so hit it now. The reporter asked him, DA, Stephen A. said this morning that Chet Holmgren is going to dominate you in this series, that you're the weak link. How do you respond to that? And DeAndre Ayton stopped moving. He stopped his warm-up, he turned to face the camera directly, and he said, slowly with complete control, they said that? Good. That's all I needed to hear. Bro, I got chills. I genuinely got chills watching this, because it wasn't anger, it wasn't panic, it wasn't insecurity. It was a man who just received exactly the fuel he needed to go out and have the game of his life tonight. And then he kept talking, and this is where it got really, really interesting. He said, let me ask you something. Do people remember what DeAndre Ayton did in Phoenix? Do they remember the 2021 finals? Do they remember what I did in the paint in those games? Because the media, the analysts, guys like Stephen A., they have this very short memory. They remember the narratives they built about me. They remember saying I was soft. I didn't compete. I wasn't worth a max contract. But they conveniently forget the actual basketball. So let me remind everyone what I am. I am a 7-foot center who can defend the rim, who can score in the post, who can set screens that change games, and who has been in this exact type of pressure situation before. You think I'm scared of Chet Holmgren? I respect Chet. He's a great player, but he is not walking into this building tonight and just doing whatever he wants. Not against me. My jaw dropped, because this is not the DeAndre Ayton we've seen for most of his career. This is not the quiet, passive, hard-to-read DA. This is a man who has clearly been carrying something heavy for a long time, and today decided it was time to put it down and set it on fire. And there's a reason for that, because it wasn't just Stephen A. who questioned him. It's been weeks of this. It's been the entire media establishment writing the Lakers off and pointing at Ayton as the primary reason why. And now, with LeBron himself putting him on notice this morning, yes, LeBron specifically mentioned DA needing to be ready in his interview, and I broke that down in the last video. DeAndre Ayton is entering Game 1 tonight as the most motivated version of himself I have ever seen. But here is where the interview took a turn that I genuinely did not see coming, because after setting the table, after defending himself against Stephen A.'s criticism, DA started talking about the process, about what it took to get to this moment, and he said something that I think is going to resonate with every single person watching. People don't see what happens at 5 in the morning. They don't see the film study. They don't see the weight room at midnight. They see the playoff box score, and they decide in 3 seconds what kind of player I am. But my teammates see it. LeBron sees it. And tonight, the world is gonna see it too. And then, this is the part that made the whole interview explode. He was asked directly about Chet Holmgren's physical profile, because the narrative all week has been that Chet's length, his 7-foot wingspan, his shot blocking is going to neutralize Ayton in the paint. And DA said, Chet is long, I know that, but long doesn't mean strong, and I've been playing against long my entire career. You know what matters in the paint? Positioning. And I have been working on my positioning for 6 months specifically for this moment. When you see me on that floor tonight, watch my feet. Watch where I set up before the ball even comes to me, because I am not going to be where they expect me to be. And by the time they adjust, it's going to be too late. Okay, so the interview went to a brief break here. And honestly, I thought when they came back, DA might pull back a little bit, tone it down, be a little more diplomatic. But when they came back, he was even more fired up, like he used the commercial break to think of more things he wanted to say. And what he said next was the most personal, the most vulnerable, and honestly the most powerful moment of the entire interview. He said, I want to be very honest right now. This is the most important stretch of my career. I know that, and I know there have been moments in my career where people looked at me and wondered if I had the fire, if I wanted it enough. And I'm not gonna sit here and pretend those criticisms didn't happen or that they didn't hurt. They did. When I left Phoenix, when the situation there fell apart, when I came here and people said I was on a downward arc, that hurt. That genuinely hurt. But I used every single one of those moments. I put every single one of those doubts into a box. And I've been carrying that box into every practice, every film session, every early morning workout. And tonight I opened the box. Tonight, I let it all out on that court in front of 19,000 OKC fans who are going to be screaming for blood. And I cannot wait, man, cannot wait. This dude is locked in. I've been covering the Lakers for years, and I have never heard DeAndre Ayton talk like this. This is not a man who is going through the motions. This is not a player who is happy just to be in the second round. This is a guy who has something to prove to everyone, the media, the fans, his old teams, himself. And he has chosen the biggest possible stage to prove it on. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting, because the reporter asked DA about LeBron's comments this morning, about LeBron publicly saying DA needs to be ready, and I want you to watch Ayton's reaction here, because it's fascinating. He paused, he smiled, a real smile, not forced, and he said, LeBron told me the truth. That's what great leaders do. He could have protected me publicly and been fake about it. Instead, he looked at the camera and said exactly what he would say to me face to face. And you know what I said to him when I saw him after his interview? I said, I got you. That's it. 2 words. And he knew exactly what I meant. Bro, this is the kind of locker room chemistry that wins playoff series. This is not dysfunction. This is accountability. This is a veteran leader holding his teammate to the standard that the moment requires, and the teammate responding exactly the right way. And this is why I think the Lakers are going to be a problem for OKC tonight. Because a motivated, accountable, hungry DeAndre Ayton against a team that expects to blow them out, that's dangerous. And then DA left us with one final piece that I cannot stop thinking about. He was walking back toward the locker room, and he turned and looked back at the camera one last time, and he said, I want to say something to everyone who thinks this series is over before it starts. To Stephen A., to all the analysts, to everyone who called this a sweep. Write down what I'm about to tell you. The world is going to change its opinion. Maybe not tonight, maybe not in Game 2. But by the time this series gets to Los Angeles, something is coming, something big. And I am going to be a part of it. Then he turned around and walked back into that tunnel, and the camera just stayed on the empty hallway for a second. Okay, let me give you my real analysis here, because I think it's important to separate the emotion from the basketball reality. Because as incredible and inspiring as DA's interview was this morning, the truth is that Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein together are going to be an enormous challenge. Chet put up 30 and 14 against the Clippers late in the season. He was blocking shots in bunches during the Phoenix sweep, 8 blocks in 3 games. And Hartenstein is a physical bruiser who plays exactly the style that can neutralize Ayton's finesse game. So the blueprint is clear for OKC. Double Ayton early, make him uncomfortable, force him into bad decisions. If DA gets flustered in the first quarter, if his confidence cracks under that Paycom center noise, this could go sideways fast. But here's what gives me hope. Here's the number that I keep coming back to. In the 6 games against Houston, Ayton averaged 14 points and 11 rebounds and shot 62% from the field. 62% against Alperen Sengun, who is no slouch. And he did that while LeBron was drawing all the defensive attention. Now imagine what DA looks like in a series where defenses are even more focused on LeBron, where every double team, every rotation leaves a seam in the paint. If Ayton can exploit those seams the way he did against Houston, this series becomes very, very interesting. He said, people keep talking about Shea this, Shea that. Listen, Shea is a great player. He's the best player in the world right now, probably. You don't win a championship without being elite. But I've watched every single game OKC has played this season. I've watched them from that sideline with nothing else to do. And I see things, I see patterns, I see tendencies. I see how they respond when their lead shrinks in the 4th quarter. I see how Chet reacts when the physicality increases. I see what happens to their pace when someone disrupts their rhythm early in the shot clock. And then he paused, and he said, I can't wait. I literally had to stand up, because what Luka just described is months of film study from the sideline. Months of watching OKC with the obsessive eye of someone who is preparing for war. While the media was writing his team's obituary, while Stephen A was using the word execution, Luka Doncic was sitting there with ice on his knee and a tablet in his hand, studying every single thing about the team that is supposed to sweep his Lakers. That is terrifying if you're Oklahoma City. And then DA's comments came up because the reporter asked Luka if he'd heard what DeAndre Ayton said this morning, and Luka's face changed. He got more serious. He said, DA is one of the most underrated players in this league, and I mean that with full sincerity. I have played with and against some of the best big men in the world, and DA, when he's right, when he's mentally and physically locked in, he is as hard to stop in the paint as anyone. The stuff Stephen A said about him this morning was disrespectful, and DA is going to make him regret every single word tonight. He paused again, then added, and so am I, on Game 4. The bottom line is this: DeAndre Ayton came out today and sent a message to the entire basketball world. He is not the weak link. He is not scared. He is not passive. He is a man who has been waiting for this moment, and he is going to use every single doubt, every single criticism, every single Chet is going to eat you alive as fuel. And in my opinion, that is exactly the mindset you need going into a building as loud and hostile as Paycom Center tonight. Laker Nation, I need you in the comments. Tell me, do you believe in DeAndre Ayton after this morning? Can DA give us 18 and 12 tonight and make Stephen A eat his words? Because I think he can. I genuinely think he can. Smash that like, subscribe, ring that bell, and share this video with every single person you know who counted the Lakers out. We ride together, Laker Nation forever, and tonight we find out who the real DeAndre Ayton is.